All of us are forced to be stuck in our lower consciousness. They don't want us to ascend to reach our divine nature because they're afraid of who we can be. And when I mean lower consciousness, I legit mean the lower state of ourselves. There's this idea within spirituality which talks about our lower consciousness as well as our higher consciousness. And the distractions or pleasures of this world is what keeps us tied to our lower consciousness, unable to ascend to our higher consciousness. So you may be asking what our lower consciousness is. And it's basically our lower selves, like I said before, but being pretty vague here, right? But think about it like this. Our lower consciousness consists of three main points within our body. The first one starts in our groin area, and then our stomach, and then our solar plexus. So it goes from groin, stomach, and then solar plexus, which consists of our lower consciousness. And all of them represent a sin, a pleasure, or a vice that we do, which keeps us stuck in our lizard brain mentality or lower state of mind. Let's start with the lowest one, lust. And lust is located at the lowest point where our sexual energy is stored at. And everything in society today has a lustful innuendo behind it. Or some just straight up say it. The media we consume, the TV shows we watch, the music that we listen to, even the advertisement that we see, all have some lustful meaning behind it. And it's just one, it's just society wants us to be trapped in this cycle full of lust. We keep going back to it, feeding it our sexual energy or energy in and of itself, keeping us trapped and having these lizard brains. It's just sad, because we become the media we consume. So if we consume these lustful media, we become lustful. And you can see it in the way people dress, the way people act, the way people talk, text. It's just more of the lustful nature. Even the way people look. If they struggle with lust, you can tell they look more lustful. And it's just the way society has been programmed for us to stay in this lower conscious state, lower state of mind. And lust is probably the lowest state you can get. And then it just goes higher from there, but they're all part of the lower consciousness. And it's like, it's crazy because people are introduced to it to a young age. Kids even are introduced to adult content at such a young age, which keeps them trapped in the lower consciousness even as they age, unable to overcome it without conscious effort and help from other people than themselves as well. And the way to overcome lust is through prayer and avoidance, making a conscious effort to avoid it as much as you can. More on this later in the video. Moving on from that, we have the other lower state, which is predominantly located in our stomach. And it's not as hard to beat as lust, but it's still difficult in our own nature, depending on who you are as a person, as well as, your environment and everything like that. And this is tied to gluttony. But it doesn't have to relate with food in and of itself, but it has to relate with more fasting or denying ourselves. It's basically telling ourselves that we're more than our animal nature. We're more than our animal state. We have a divine nature within us. So if we're hungry, we deny ourselves of food. We're denying our flesh. Because animals, most of the time, right when they're hungry, they would try to find food as fast as possible and eat, right? Because that's the animal nature. And most of us are stuck in our animal nature. We don't prolong our hunger. We don't delay gratification. It's another thing. We're always stuck. We're always looking for the next dopamine hit, the next gratification, just like how animals are. That's our animal brain or lizard brain, as you can call it. So the way to overcome that is through fasting. It can be fasting of food, which is denying of the flesh, fasting of social media, fasting of anything like that. So it's just telling our bodies that we're more than just our animal nature. We're a divine nature. We have a different nature, which comes in the word of individual. More on this in another video, but it is showing that we have two natures and we are something bigger. We're in control of our bodies, not our bodies in control of us. So all I'm trying to say is the denial helps us realize that we're not animals, but rather something much bigger, something much more divine. And the last state that I'm going to talk about is located in our solar plexus, which represents more of our ego, pride, hate, anger, jealousy, and so on, you know? Most of these emotions, negative emotions that we feel. And I'm not gonna lie, for some people it's easy, while some people it's harder. Like, just like how lust or gluttony is easier and harder for some people based on the environment and who they are as a person, you know? It can be different for all people. And it's just like, for this, we just have to dig deeper and understand why we feel certain emotions, why we feel that way. Like, if we're angry, we have to understand why we are angry and not let the emotion fully take care of us. I'm not saying like be emotionless, but rather understand or try to understand why you feel that emotion, what makes you think that way or feel that way. And a way to overcome this is through contrition, gratitude, which I'll talk about later. Now, you're probably wondering, what are the ways we can overcome this? I mean, after listening to all this information, you probably have your own ways of understanding how to go about it, how to go over it, which is fine in and of itself. But I'm just gonna talk about my way of how I do it, and it doesn't matter if you do it my way or your own way, because we all go through our own ways, our own journeys to get to the same place. And the way that I do it is through prayer, fasting, and contrition. Most religions talk about these three things, which is prayer, fasting, and contrition. And it's, to be honest, I guess one of the best ways to combat lower consciousness if you're religious. And it's like it talks about, so the first one is prayer. You can't really overcome lust by yourself. You need the help of God with you, which is where prayer comes in. You pray to God to give you the strength to overcome lust. And then there's fasting. Fasting is basically how we basically overcome the middle part, or like the lower consciousness or near our stomach. Basically, fasting of food, denying of the flesh, fasting of gratification, social media, and all of that, which is another thing. And then the last one is contrition. But I also like to add gratitude to it. So it's basically self reflection in a way, thinking, oh, why did I get mad? How did I get mad? Like all of that, like just looking deeper within yourself to understanding why you feel certain emotions, why you act the way you act. It's the way you act. And then as well as gratitude, to help us realize that we're so small, yet so big in this world. I'm not saying this is the only way to overcome it, but it's just one way to overcome it. Just because it's specific to me, even if you follow the same structure, it'll still be unique to you. Because you are unique in your own way. Even though we're all the same, we're all different at the same time. You have to go on your own journey to understand it. There's no one way to do one thing, but rather many ways to do one thing. So find a way that's specific to you so you could overcome this lower consciousness and reach your divine state so you can be the best version you can be.